Going on, everyone? Welcome to
Hello.
another Nerds Galore live stream. I am here joined in studio by my buddy Caleb Moore. What's going on, Caleb? How are you tonight?
I'm doing great. You?
Doing well. We got our co-host, Mr. Andy Garcia, aka Andy Classified. How we doing?
Good, good. Thank you. How about yourself?
Doing well. And our two guests this evening, we got down below us, Mr. Ian, all the way from Japan. How we doing?
Doing well, doing well.
Good to have you. And a repeat guest from last week, Mr. JT Lovecraft. Welcome back, sir.
Hi.
Welcome.
All right. Well, guys, like we said on everything we were teasing about, we are talking about comic books, comic art, some James Gunn DCU stuff. We're going to go down all kinds of rabbit trails and rabbit holes and hopefully make our way back to the main topics, but we'll see what happens. Tonight, we're actually going to switch things up a little bit. Mr. Andy Garcia is actually going to kind of run us down kind of some of the things we're going to be talking about. Let's get started, dude.
All right. Well, once again, everyone, thank you so much for joining us, especially to our special guests. It's awesome to see you guys. And if you're in the chat, let us know your thoughts and opinions as we go. And first of all, I want to ask, what are some of your favorite comics? And that can include Western comics, manga, web comics. What is it that you guys look forward to when we say comics? What stands out?
You have anyone in mind that wants to start?
Yes, Ian. Let's start with you.
JT's
All
like,
right.
not me, the other guy.
Yeah, so man, it's such a loaded question for me as someone who grew up just reading comics so much. And like a little bit of background for me real quickly is the fact that I actually also teach comics. And so like I do so much with it. And so it's like narrowing it down to one is just like super hard. But like a few that like I immediately think of from like Western comics, a series I absolutely love is called I Hate Fairyland by like from Image by Scotty Young.
Mhm.
An absolutely just fun series. But then also there's three specific series that I love that are manga. One is called Bakuman, which is about two artists who are going through the process of becoming manga artists themselves. Then you have Full Metal Alchemist. It is a story about two brothers trying to right wrongs of the past and about like learning to live with decisions that are made. And then the last one is One Piece, an absolute epic that has been going on for years and still going strong. If you're reading along with it, you know it's coming closer, very much closer to an end. But yeah, and then the one thing that like my first memory of comics that I would say I wouldn't be who I am with comics without it is Calvin and Hobbes.
Fair enough.
Gotcha.
Heck yeah.
Calvin and Hobbes. Yeah. Oh, yeah. I also grew up with a little bit of Calvin and Hobbes, so totally get that.
Okay.
JT, how about you yourself?
Yeah, a lot of what you said has like familiar rings to it, but I actually exclusively collect Star Wars comics. Yeah, so I've actually been slowing down because the new series really haven't been interesting me a whole lot. But I just finished up the Boba Fett Black, White, and Red, and
Ooh.
the Jedi series that's been going on for a little bit. But it, you know, more so when I just in the area of my local comic book shop, my LCS, the guy that runs it, Russ, he's a great guy. So it's more so just buy a comic as the side hand thing, and then I just have an excuse to talk with him in person, and just hang out, you know. But when I think of comics, at least my favorite comic book series is one that was originally just titled Star Wars because they do that all the time. Anytime they want to start a new run, they just call it Star Wars, and then it turns into something, hopefully. But this one started off as Prelude to the Rebellion, and it ended up actually becoming Star Wars Republic. And why this rings so much with me is because being a prequel kid, growing up watching the prequel Star Wars movies, this specific comic book run started before the Phantom Menace, and every subsequent issue that came out coincided with the movies. So
Oh.
it hinted at some background characters before they were even shown on screen. It dabbled into Aura Singh having a red lightsaber at one point. Ashrad Het being the preliminary character that will end up eventually becoming Darth Krayt, the one Sith prophecy from Legacy. But Republic also, like I said, is interesting because it comes out at the same time that media comes out. So when the 2003 Clone Wars was happening, which is my bread and butter, it's got that Samurai Jack, crazy
Oh
cartoon.
yeah.
They actually changed the font to have like the crosshair inside of the circle of the word Clone Wars, and they were implementing characters like you just got introduced to Dirge. How about Dirge in the comics? How about Dirge setting a trap for Obi-Wan and zombifying a bunch of Gungans to attack
Mm.
him? Just really cool concepts that I guess they're not brave enough to share in movies and shows, and I think that's also another interesting thing is. Comic books are a medium for people to get that little bit of extra knowledge that further nerds you out, I guess. So it's cool.
Gotcha. Oh, that was really awesome. And then last but not least, the man with the golden pipes, Caleb. What are some of your favorite comics?
Should I start with modern comics or should I start with back issue stuff?
Well, let's start with your favorite. What are some of your favorites?
Gosh. The first one that comes to mind is one that I'm reading through right now, and that's Kurt Busiek's run on Thunderbolts, the original 90s series. I've been reading through that, and I've really enjoyed it.
Okay.
Gotcha.
Is it
Nice.
just the writing style, or is it a lot of the art too?
Yeah, the art is done by Mark Bagley, who is one of my other favorite comic book artists. So seeing those two work together has been really cool. And also the character dynamics is really interesting because it's a bunch of like D-list villains becoming heroes. So, if one character goes to jail, you don't know if they'll ever come out again, right? It's like interesting because it's not like, oh, they're not going to kill off Batman. Like they might kill off Mach 1. I don't know.
Yeah, that's really interesting. It's almost like a Game of Thrones situation where you don't know if the main character is just gonna up and die all of a sudden. That's interesting.
I mean, it's Marvel's Suicide Squad is what it is.
That's true. Yeah. For me, we talked about this right before we jumped on stream, but I mean, New 52 Batman, like for me, like I didn't get started reading comics until probably about 2 years ago or so. Caleb's older brother, Joel here, aka Halfwit, if you guys know him, got me started on the New 52. And since then I've read, I've got Hush here. I've got a bunch of other really good, there's the Dark Knight Metal, some really good comics. So for me, it's Batman. That's where my loyalties lie.
Gotcha.
For comics.
Gotcha. And you guys were just talking recently, right before we hopped on the stream. You would recommend if anyone's starting Batman comics, the New 52 is where you would start. Is that correct?
I would start that if you have a like baseline knowledge of Batman and who the Bat family is. If not, if you are just getting into comics, if you're trying to get a really good understanding of the characters, honestly, I would highly recommend picking up the Year One comics.
Yep.
Those are great introductory. It really gives you a feel for who these characters are and their origin stories, how they're starting out. That's probably what I would recommend for the DC side of it. I'm sure Marvel has some of that. I'm not as much sure in that area. But yeah.
Gotcha.
I would agree with Ian's sentiment there. Yeah. If you have a decent working knowledge of the Bat family, by all means, New 52, jump right on. It's fantastic. But if you're needing something where you kind of want to pick up, like he said, on who they are starting out, Batman Year One, those are great. So
nice, very nice. And then for myself, I didn't get into comics. I didn't grow up with comics. I got into them pretty late in life, but I started reading web comics before anything else. And one of the first ones I ever had was a web comic called Fox Paws, pronounced Fox Paws at least in the canon. And it was a weekly comic strip You probably can't see it very well, but it's still going by Robert and Margaret Karspecken. I got a chance to meet them actually during nationals, Morgan, when we were in basketball.
Oh dang. Okay.
I got to meet them during one of our lunch breaks, and they were super great. And then, of course, my other favorite would be Beyond the Western Deep. Oops, sorry. Beyond the Western Deep by Alex Kane and art by Rachel Bennett. Sorry, my mic is everywhere. But it's another webcomic with, think of like Redwall in Lord of the Rings. It's a fantasy action comic.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you mentioned Redwall and all that. Did you ever much get into the Mouse Guards comics?
I have actually, yes. I haven't read all of them. I know he has like the anthologies, and he's got a new one coming out that I haven't checked out. But I read the first 3 or 4 volumes. I think there's only 3. Yeah. Yeah, I read those. The story's great. The art is fantastic. It just, yeah, it's really cool. I of course love anything with talking animals. So any comic like that is really good.
Yeah, and if you guys ever see Andy's art, if you follow him on Instagram at Andy Classified, you'll see a lot of his art, pretty much all of his art is, talking animals and different things like that. So yeah,
I'm a product of the '90s.
there you go.
That's another thing too. I mean, to get into comic books, you don't even necessarily have to get into comic books to try to relate to characters. Some people just buy comic books for the art, and that's
me.
That's its own, topic. I have some comic books in my collection that I absolutely despise the story. It does not click with me at all. But the visuals, super cool stuff. You could just hang it on your wall and just forget about the rest,
Right?
100%.
I'm not reading any page of this, but the graphics, man, they're great.
I have back there in my bookshelf, I have a French comic. I think it's called Animal Castle. It's all in French. I don't understand a lick of it, but the artwork is beautiful, just gorgeous, all with different colored inks. And I'm like, I don't know what it's saying, but it's gorgeous.
That's cool. I like it.
Art normally makes or break a comic book. If it's a really good artist or a writer with a bad artist, bad book. Really bad writer, good artist, at least okay.
I would actually very much disagree with that take, mainly because of the fact that if the longevity of a comic comes down to the writing. You can have a beautiful comic, but if the writing is not good, if the story's not good, it's not going to be a long-lasting series. People will pick it up initially because it's pretty, and you're right. People will be like, "Oh, this is cool," but you're going to have more people like artists and art enjoyers picking that up, and not because it's an actual comic. Whereas you have a lot of I would say you have a lot of examples of art where it's not actually that amazing or that polished. To me, a great example of that is Cyanide and Happiness, is a long running web comic series that's just more or less glorified stick figures, but people love it because it's written well.
But I will say, kind of going along with that though, especially if you're a newcomer to comics and you see a comic book that might have great writing, but the art isn't very good, it might take someone be like, hey, I know, they might put it back on the shelf, but it might take somebody going, actually, I've read that one. The art isn't fantastic, but the writing's really good. So maybe that was more the point there, because kind of half the battle is what you first see, right?
So for sure.
I think
both things are subjective too. I mean, what is considered good art and what is considered good writing? I think of at least the Star Wars series that came out, I think in the 90s. It was Tales of the Jedi, and it has a lot of non-modern-esque style with a lot of bright neon pastel-y kind of ugly colors, but it's got some great content in there, And then in the modern day, they made a TV show interpretation of Ahsoka or Kenobi, and then you have these ugly stenciled in that is not the actor, dude. The art is not vibing with me, So it's both ways,
Yeah, 100%.
For
Good
sure.
stuff.
It's just for me when I see a comic book. Oh, you can go.
No,
Sorry about
go
that.
ahead. Kid.
When I at least in when we pick up monthly books, me and my dad, the books that I always want to quit are the books where it's like, I hate this artist, or it's like, I don't like this art at all. Those are always the ones that I want to quit the fastest.
That's actually a fair assessment. I've definitely come across different series that have different artists, and if the artist changes and I don't like their art style, I am loath to read it. I think that's one of the areas where webcomics is a great thing, because when you go to a webcomic page, the first thing that you see is the newest page, and then you have if you're starting it over, you go to for the original page. And I know one of my favorite webcomics, their artwork is incredible, but if you go to his very first couple chapters, maybe first couple years, the artwork is not good. Like, it's very, very rough. No pun intended. It is a comic about dogs, but it's
rough.
it's very almost like you said, similar to stick figures. Not as bad, but still enough where you're like, yeah, this guy was just doodling and having fun. But over the years, you can see that he's progressed, and that's one of the, like I was saying, the highlights of having a webcomic is you see what's the current state of the comic, and then when you go back, you've already switched your brain to, this is later going to change, so I can enjoy this.
I think about like art and drawing in general too. I think with like a lot of artists having a rocky beginning is a very common thing. I think more in the realm of like creating a cartoon. In my head, I'm just picturing it, but a Cartoon Network show called Regular Show. The pilot for the show, the characters were not as well drawn as the later seasons, because the authors and the senseless, they get used to drawing the same character and over again. They end up visualizing that specific shape consistently in the later years, like what you're saying.
Yeah.
For sure.
James Flack says some of his favorite: After Morning Pumpkin, X-Men, specifically Fall of the Mutants, and Inferno.
Nice. I haven't read any of those.
Nor have I. He's shown me some of them. This is actually one of my coworkers. Shout out, James. What's up?
Howdy.
But yeah, we've talked about it a little bit. Yeah, I've never read any of them either. They look cool. He showed me some of the comic covers.
I think I've heard that name before. Does anyone know when that would have been released? What era of Marvel that is?
I don't know. We can probably look that up here.
I'm going to be 100% honest. I haven't read really any of the DC or Marvel comics. When it comes to comics, I'm almost strictly web comics or a few graphic novels here and there. I never caught up with the typical...
or when I go, hey, read this.
Yeah, that's also true. So
yeah,
that's also a really good point. Other than web comics, I got into comics because of Ian, because he brought over when we met in Taiwan at the animation school. He had, I think you had the different volumes of I Hate Fairyland.
I had the first volume with me.
Was it the
then
first
I had,
volume?
Like, I think it was the first volume, and then I had the rest as PDF.
Gotcha. Yeah, and so he had me read those, and then we start working in comics during the comic school, which we'll have you share a little bit more about later, Ian. And as I was helping teach the comics, I was like, you know what? I should probably make comics before I start teaching this. So I ended up getting into comics because of Ian, more by just making them rather than reading.
Way to go, Ian! Woo! I love it. So great.
Now, when you mean webcomics, like specifically like digitized versions, right?
Yeah,
it would
go ahead,
be
Ian.
more so like webcomics usually refers to people who are indie creators who are not actually published, and they are using a website or places like Instagram, or there are apps like Webtoons or Tapas, where they are self-publishing their comics through those sites and all that, so that people are engaging with it. And the hope for most of those people is that eventually they can either get it published or they go through the route of self-publishing. So
that's like a pitch. Okay.
Yeah. So usually like a webcomic is something where like instead of it being like a monthly, like here once a month, your new chapter's out, it's every week you have a new page that comes out. So like once or twice a week, there's a new page on the website, and it's like just slowly happening because again, you got one person doing everything, and they usually have a day job and whatnot. So yeah,
Right.
Correct.
Oh, you learn something every day because I always ever collected physical issues, so I wouldn't know the difference. That's good. Cool.
Gotcha. Yeah, no, I highly recommend checking out webcomics. That's what both of these were originally, webcomics, and thankfully they were able to print some. That's one of the reasons I like to pick Kickstarter. Also, is who's trying to self-publish their webcomics.
Yeah, that's really good stuff. I love it. What Ian's over there having? What's going on over there?
No, he said he enjoys browsing Kickstarter to see what webcomics people are self-publishing.
I don't browse it.
Oh, okay. I was like, I don't recommend people browsing.
No.
Once
a great while, I'll get on there just to be like, is there anything in the for you page that's like anything for me? Nope, none of this is for me. So yes, you do have to be very.
Unfortunately,
very careful.
if you browse the comic section of Kickstarter, I would say 50% of the comics that are trying to be published or like self-funded get very much into the semi-pornographic region.
Yeah,
gotcha.
So
interesting.
Yeah, so it's just something to like be aware of. Unfortunately, the comics industry can be very dark.
Yes,
for sure.
Yeah. Stay away.
Thank you for pointing that out, Ian. Once you said that, I was like, oh boy, I better clarify.
Yeah.
Well, that's why I was chuckling. I'm like, I know you.
Abort! I didn't mean it.
Indeed.
Yeah. That's so fun.
Let's see. Yeah, why? I guess why is it that we love comics? What makes comics different from movies and regular books? Why do people just have a huge love for comics? Obviously, it's the artwork. For me, it's artwork before story. But I don't know if you guys have any other thoughts as well.
I second that notion. I love the artwork.
I think certain stories could be carrying in artwork and certain stories could be carrying in story work. But I think for me, mainly, its importance lies with, it's like I said before, it's medium. It's a medium that you can touch on that doesn't have stuff from the movies. You know, that it gives you a hunger that makes you want to learn more about these characters and relate to them on a different level that the common normie won't understand. You know, I think a lot of the, I've not read nearly any Marvel comics to even call myself an avid reader, but I recently heard with the new leaks of the Avengers Doomsday movie happening that they're taking a concept of Tony Stark being Doctor Doom, which was in one of the comics, which I'm like, okay, I've never heard of that, but let's roll with it. Sure, let's see what they do with this. So I'm excited. We'll see what happens. So even as someone that's like not into it, I still have a hunger for it. Like, that's cool, you know?
It's kind of interesting because there's a weird dichotomy there where it's like, yes, I agree with you, JT. Like, it helps you kind of get deeper into some of your favorite characters, right? Like for me, Batman. But with getting deeper into your favorite character, when you see movies and stuff that come out of some of these characters, sometimes you're like, oh, that's really cool, and sometimes you're like, oh, come on, like there's no way, you know what I mean? Like,
it makes you cynical too, because you hear about Luke in the EU, and Luke is the most powerful Jedi. They describe the fights he's supposed to have as like flashes of light, and I'm like, dude, in the movies I seen him like try to kick a guy off of a skiff, and he didn't even connect his foot with the dude's face. I'm like, this is not EU Luke, man. Why didn't you just bring down the barge into the pit? You know, just something crazy. But it's the movies. We get it.
Questioning the force kick? The infamous Mark Hamill force kick?
How dare you? My favorite? Yeah.
I want to quickly shout out David Stanley in the chat. Thank you so much, David. Me and Ian know David personally. It's good to see you, man. Let us know, what are some of your favorite comics?
But yeah, I think that, you're right, JT. It also makes you cynical, right? You get to know the character, but it also makes you cynical. Ian, go ahead.
Yeah, I would agree. I would say, like, if you're getting into the movie side of it, like, as someone who did read comics and things like that, I can't tell you how many times like I've gone into like a specifically more so Marvel than
Yeah.
DC, but like a Marvel film, and it's titled the same thing as a comic series, and you go in and and then it doesn't follow the comic.
Yeah.
And you're like,
Mm.
and as
Thor: Love
someone
and
who
Thunder.
reads- for me, a really good example was Civil War. The
Yeah.
Civil War comic is amazing. It's so good. And then what they did in the movies, like I get at the time, like they did what they had to do, but like spoiler for anyone who has not read the comics, at the end of the Civil War comics, Captain America gets sniped in the back of the head and gets killed. So I went in going, oh man, Captain America, like people are gonna lose their minds, Captain America's gonna die, and then it didn't happen, and I was so upset. And I was like, and so like by the time like Endgame and all that stuff was happening, I was like, Captain America just needs to die.
You should have been dead.
I was like,
That's so
you've
funny.
overstayed your welcome.
Oh my
And so
goodness.
like, yeah, you very much have that side of it as well. In terms of why do people enjoy comics though, I would say like that gets into the area that as people we are visual, and so it was the early forms of taking image and adding story and combining it before there was movies, before that stuff. And so they're like the earliest thing is like comics are sequential storytelling. And so things where if it's just like image here, and it's just like these are like the sequence of images, and then there's like a paragraph of text next to it. Those are like the really early forms of comics, which again, different than like an illustrated storybook, which has one-off illustrations. It's not consistently like, here's the next scene, here's the next scene. I would actually argue a lot of children's books where it is like scene by scene, those could technically be considered comics because of the sequential storytelling side of it. Me as a consumer, what I love with comics, I would say, is the fact that it is something that is easy for me to pick up and put down. It's one of the reasons why I started like the main type of comics that I just consume on a regular basis. Even as a teenager, it was manga, and it is manga. And I started reading manga because I was watching the Naruto anime, and it was at the time where internet just wasn't good. It was back in, oh goodness, 2008 or so. Like, and I was growing up in Turkey, and internet was okay, but it wasn't amazing. And like, it was during the summer, so sometimes it would be like, oh, we're going out, and then I had to stop. And so trying to like start up and stop it, and like stop a video and restart it in that same place where you left off. It was before anything like Netflix. So trying to like skim the timeline of like that video was difficult. And then I found the comics, and it's like, oh, I can load into the exact page I was on. And so I love that. And it's the same thing even now. Like I can pick it up. I can read a little bit before like a meeting or before I go to bed or whatever it is. And it's great.
So, dude, to touch on that, when you brought up like sequential storytelling, it jogged my memory. I'm like, dude, comic books are so integrated and important in media in general. Because take any cartoon show that came out, they have storyboards for that, right? Yeah. And storyboards are panels with characters moving, doing an action with a little bit of text under it. And it literally just, you stack them all together, it creates a whole scene, you know? That's more of a diffused version of a comic book, but that's the same layout, you know? You can do the same exact thing. And when you say you can pick up and put down a comic book, whatever, dude, I totally agree with you. But question, would you prefer to do that within single issues or like a trade paperback or an omnibus, like a collected series? Like what would your case be? Because you said you're in manga, you know?
Yeah, so with manga, oftentimes example, again, I read One Piece. The comic comes out once, like they have a new 18-page issue comic coming out every week for One Piece for the most part. and that is what a lot of the weekly manga are. These are comics that range between an 18 to 22 page issued comic, and like they're coming out every week. And so like for me, it's like, okay, I can read a little bit, I can put it down. So they are like, it's part of a whole series, but it is like the one-off issues. I do the same thing with like trade paperbacks. I read everything digitally currently on, like, I have a Kindle. I read everything on that. I just, yeah, living in Japan, I don't have a ton of space for extra stuff. And
Right.
so I love picking up comics and all that when I have the opportunity to. But yeah, so currently it's just reading digitally, which means I can read anywhere because it's all right there on. I mean, I got this like this Kindle Fire and all that. It's this size right here, and the size is the exact, like the screen size is the exact size of what a like traditional manga page is if you buy like a physical copy. So
Like digest size. Yeah.
yeah.
And so, I mean, I have 6 short boxes, full of comic books. So I totally understand the space argument. And I know there is an argument with, like, because I'm a physical media collector. I collect all my movies, collect all my comics and whatnot. And there is that argument over, like, what is considered better, to collect it in single issues or trade paperbacks. I think trades is better for space and consistent storytelling, but there's a certain vibe you get, like going every week to the comic book store and waiting for that next issue of whatever, you know what I mean? There's like cons and pros of both.
So this is, I'm sorry, this is going to be a bit crass, but it's something Stan Lee said, and I think it rings true. There was a point when Stan Lee was asked, with the rise of digital media, if he thinks that print comics and print media will ever go the way of the past, where it's just like it's not happening anymore. And he went, comics are like boobs. He's like, it's great to see them on a screen, but you want to hold them in your hand. And it's just like, but it's like that reality where it's like, it's true. It's the same thing as like any other book. It's like there's a convenient side of it, but when you are like, when you have something you really love, and then especially, and I know Andy can like understand this side of it as well, where when you're creative and you really enjoy something, like the idea of having that physical and being able to bookmark pages and being able to flip to them for references, it's the same thing as like, I know some of you guys play D&D and all that. It's like, if you have you're running your campaign, you have your like the Dungeon Master's Guide or the Player's Handbook, you want to be able to bookmark pages. If you have that on digital form instead, you're having to memorize what page things are on and like skim back and forth, and it becomes a chore.
Yeah,
for sure.
I just think for like long-term, like longevity collecting too, is like you can always go back to a digital crisp version of that page, but when you're in your 50s or whatever, how old you are, you wait in the future, there's something about opening up your old comic book, like the nostalgia won't hit the same,
Yeah, I can totally get that.
Well, I guess to that, I think it's also a bit of there's a bit of legacy to that as well. I got into comic books because of my dad, and it's really cool because he will go through. He has in a basement a bunch of comic books, and he'll dig through them and find comic books that I would like, and he goes, "Here, have these," and that I think is
and he's got the dust and mold in your face.
not that quite that dirty, but yeah, there's a tangible sense of like legacy and connection to my dad when I have those physical issues of like, this was the book my dad read, and now he's giving it to me to read.
That's cool. Yeah,
That's the torch.
Really cool.
Yeah, passing the torch for sure. I kind of feel that way, like obviously not with comics, but like for me, music is huge, and I play the guitar. My grandpa did, and I have one of 1952 Gibson of his that he passed down to me, and it's really like I can understand that like sentiment of having that passed down in your family.
Yeah, my dad didn't get me into Star Wars comics, but he did get me into Star Wars. He did have a few like Hellboy comics and Tales from the Crypt or whatever, just cool little things that he thought at the time when he was a kid, that art is awesome. Look at this cover. Like he's showing me and it's all dusty and crap. It smells terrible. In my basement forever. But like his passion for something he had as a kid, growing up, going to a garage sale, paying a nickel or whatever it was, and his reaction now, when he's the age he is, I want that for my kid when I'm in the future, and
Yeah, yeah.
and there's something cool about like the passed down torch connection thing, because he didn't get me into Star Wars comics, but he got me into Star Wars. So if I can connect the two and create my own passion, I can pass that directly down,
Right.
with filters. So it's, yeah.
100%.
For sure.
Yeah, it's cool stuff. Yeah, absolutely.
I remember. So my dad also didn't grow up with comics, but he watched cartoons as a kid, and he watched Aquaman, the old Aquaman cartoons. I don't know. I guess it has to be the 70s or the 80s. I guess.
Super Friends era, yeah.
Gotcha. And I remember as a little kid, I haven't seen them in years, but we went to the library and they had like a VHS of a collection of the Aquaman the cartoon. And I remember watching that as a little kid because my dad was like, "Oh yeah, that's my favorite, Aquaman." Of course, I like the ones with the guy that talks to animals. But yeah.
Okay, you need to take off co-host right here and put Doolittle.
I mean, Little Hobbit. Yes. Originally on there I had Andy Garcia, Hobbit, but Morgan changed that to co-host.
He's updating it right now. Spoke it into existence.
What does it say? I can't read. It's so small.
It says Doolittle. It says Doolittle.
There you go.
It has been remade.
I love it.
But yeah, all that to say, being able to a parent to pass something down to their kids is awesome, and I'd love to do that when I get married and have kids, pass down my entire Redwall collection or the comics that I make. Be like, hey, here's what I made.
Yeah.
Dude, if I was a kid and my dad did that, just gave me his whole comic book, dude.
Yeah, right.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Rolling,
For
dude.
sure.
Yeah. I'm sure there'll be comic books that like I'll pass down, but there's gonna be some that like, no, kid, I'm keeping this. You can have it when I die.
100%.
You know, like
The process.
it'll be in the will.
Oh, you all fight over
Comics.
Pretty much.
it. Perfect.
My precious.
God.
Oh man, I love it. Kind of getting along with that, Andy, you mentioned making comics, and Ian, you mentioned teaching comics.
Yeah.
Obviously, I think we can get really deep into the weeds. We were talking about it a little bit last night, but like, kind of explain, if you don't mind, like,
Yeah.
30,000 foot view, kind of what you do, teaching comics and stuff.
Yeah. So yeah, again, I have a huge passion for, like, what I've realized is my passions usually revolve around things that are about storytelling, like telling stories. And as an artist, comics kind of are the natural medium for that. And so I fell in love with comics and just how powerful of a tool it can be. And so through that as well, like when I got connected to Youth with a Mission, which is the missions organization I'm a part of here in Japan, and that's also how I had met Andy initially. He was one of the staff for a school I did in Taiwan called the School of Cartoon and Animation for Missions. Like, I knew like I wanted to do comics in Japan, and then it was just a process of like, how am I getting there? What is like, where is God leading? How is he doing that? And that side of it. And it was really words. Yeah. It was those things of like, amazing to see how God just like orchestrates those things of like, I knew I wanted to eventually be in Japan. I wanted to be doing comics. Like I had known that since I was about 16 or so. And then as like a 22-year-old or so, like 22, 23-year-old, somewhere in that range, when I was in Taiwan, my classmate, I had two classmates. One of them, his name is Jason Kelly, was also just someone who loved comics and had been part of YWAM for a lot longer than me. And me and him had like we're talking about like, oh, wouldn't it be cool if there was something like the School of Cartooning and Animation for Missions? But the thing was that school, the school leader, Dave, he has just a real love and heart for animation. And they kind of brought in the comic side of it as a way to be like, oh, we get more students and things like that if we touch on it. But it was very much not a focus. It was something that got touched on. It was something that like we talked about, but it was not something that was focused on. And so me and Jason were like, wouldn't it be cool if there was something like this? But it was like the focus was on comics instead. And so we were dreaming about it. And then because he had been part of YWAM for so much longer, he really did the legwork of like figuring out what we needed to do to make that happen. And then I worked with him, created a curriculum, and we founded the Frontier Comic Seminar within Youth with a Mission together. And the idea of that is it's a 6-week-long seminar where for 3 weeks we teach people the process of creating comics, how to draw the comics, everything that is needed for it, as well as cross-cultural, just like the cross-cultural side of things, and just how do you like connect things to cultures, and when you like that contextualization side of it, and just helping people to understand like, okay, you're coming from America, but like, okay, I like me, I now live in Japan. There are certain things that like that is really important to a Japanese person that like as an American you don't necessarily think about. So example is like one that people wouldn't necessarily think about is like trash. Japan is very specific on how you throw away your trash, how things are separated, all this stuff. And so if you're going to create a comic and things like that, and you have someone throwing things away for a Japanese audience, you're going to want to make sure, like, depending on where they are, that they're throwing that stuff away in the right bin. So it's that side of it, like going, hey, that understanding of like, if you are doing something for another culture or another people, you need to understand it, and how do you do those things and how that affects what you draw. So yeah, the Frontier Comic Seminar then became that thing of that 3 weeks of lecture and teaching, and then 3 weeks of working on a comic for an unreached people group. And we ran that for the first time in Washington State. Right after that ran, I moved to Japan, joined the YWAM base here, and I have since ran that school twice in person and once online. And it's been great. I'm now also getting to a point where I have been part of YWAM Osaka for 7 years now, and I am in the process of moving out of the base to pioneer a new location and a new ministry, which is art studio space in Kyoto, where our hope and desire is to create a space for artists, for creatives, whether they are believers or not, to be able to come in, have community, have fellowship with one another, and yeah, and just a way to pour into the Japanese people through that.
That's really
awesome,
cool.
man.
That's really
awesome.
cool.
I think that's also exercising the free will too. You know, God would want you to have free will, and connecting over something like comics would be a good start to incorporate that love. You know,
Yeah.
Oh, for
the
sure.
same passion.
Yeah, and putting a lot of those messages, right? Like we're talking about writing here, you know,
Yeah.
like putting in those comics those messages that kind of spark some of those conversations as well.
Yeah, and I mean that's like my heart long term for like both the comics industry and the manga industries. I want to see people who are creating media that is just done in excellence. I don't like here's the thing. I don't want Christian media. I don't want things that are like explicitly Christian media. I want Christians who are creating media in excellence, because if they are in like the thing is, if you are in relationship with God, if you have like that connection, and you have people who are keeping you accountable as well, you are going to naturally like that relationship that you have with God is going to naturally come out in the stories that you tell and things like that. I mean, J.R. Tolkien's work with Lord of the Rings, like it is in the core of what that world is in that universe, a Christ-centric message and all this stuff. And it's the same thing with the Chronicles of Narnia. It's a little bit more in your face if you are a follower of Christ, like you already know these things, and then you see that. But like, I've had conversations with people who never grew up around the church or things like that, who consumed that media like the Chronicles of Narnia. And I can't tell you how many people who read that, and when talking about it, and I've mentioned like, oh yeah, and like the fact that Aslan is just a Jesus lion, and they go, wait, what? So like, people who are not like reading scripture, who are not like around the church constantly, even for those people, when they read that, it doesn't necessarily click for them. But it's like, those are the things that prepare people to have those conversations.
For sure.
Because that media and all that is such a powerful tool for reaching people. And yeah, and the thing is, here in Japan, it like, comics make up about 40% of all 40 to 50% of all literature. In terms
Crazy.
of physical like literature sales last year, manga made up about 45% of all literature, like physical literature sales, and then in the digital it made up about 75% of all literature sales.
Wow.
And so like, when you have a country that consumes comics on that scale, like, having people who are going to be creating things that anyone can enjoy is going to be so impactful for like, for those of us who then want to start conversations. Because if someone's read something like the Chronicles of Narnia or Lord of the Rings, or honestly Harry Potter, you can bring those things in and say, hey, here is the gospel presentation in these things, and then all of a sudden people are seeing this, and then they go, oh wow, I never knew that. And then you can start having a deeper conversation about that side of things as well. So having things like that in Japanese culture to be able to pull from will be amazing. And I know it will be it's the same thing with the comics in like the comics world in the States, like, and in the Western culture. I want to see that as well.
I think there's a Tolkien quote where he says every story points back to the story, which I always use that line.
That's cool.
And what you said about Christian media, I both agree and disagree. Christian media, I agree with you in the sense that I don't like that some of it is like that in your face-ness, because there are, let's face it, those Christians in real life that go out and they're doing too much, and in doing too much, they're pushing people away. But then I also disagree, because in the concept of baptism, you're supposed to do it in front of the masses to show your love, so it's kind of a catch-22 double-ended sword. But I do appreciate that it is a different medium for people to connect with that. I mean, like you said with like Narnia, aside from the fact that he literally was sacrificing himself on that stone tablet, right? I think in the third movie there literally is a scene where he's like on a beach or something, and he even says like "walk with me" or something of that regard, And I think that's another reason I connect with Star Wars is just there's so many different elements of the word in that medium as well. I mean, the Immaculate Conception with Shmi Skywalker, Anakin turning to the dark side. I mean, there literally is that Renaissance painting of that angel or whatever, and his arms like and his arms are like that. And they did the shot of Anakin force choking Padme on Mustafar. I'm like, oh, dude.
Yeah.
There's too many references to not notice something like that. And opening up like to the people who don't know, that enjoy that media, and being like, okay, let's have a deeper conversation about that. Like that's a good point you made there.
I should say, like, with that, like, I not saying I don't think that there should be Christian media, but like I think oftentimes, and especially here in Japan, people who become followers of Christ often get in this headspace of, oh, I have to create Christian media.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it's more so like that. Like I want people to, because I mean, I've had these conversations with Andy. Andy very much like has these desires to create more Christian media. And like, if you feel called into that, if you feel like that is a story that you personally are wanting to do, I like be blessed in that and go forward and create, because I think there is an importance to having that side of it as well. But if you are not specifically feeling like that, it's like burdened, or like that's a story you're wanting to create, like don't feel pressured into doing it. Then like create the thing that you're going to enjoy doing and being able to do in excellence.
Yes.
I guess is more so what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. If you can do it in excellence, that's still just as good of a testimony.
100%.
More
Yeah.
Hacksaw Ridge unless God's not dead.
100%. And see, that's actually one of the reasons why personally I wanted to create like Christian books, Christian comics, and stuff like that are good. Because Morgan, maybe you can sympathize with this or empathize. Growing up as a Christian homeschooler, we were very limited on what we could watch. My parents were very like, you can't watch Disney. You can watch the old Disney, but nothing new. But we were very limited on what we could watch, and so we watched a lot of Christian media, and a lot of it is just really bad, just no artistic quality whatsoever. So for me, I'm like, there's other people that have the same background that I have that probably are starving for good art, good stories, and I want to be that person
Man.
that can help them out.
You telling me VeggieTales wasn't the shiz, man?
Hey.
Come on.
Hey, VeggieTales is amazing. Let's be honest. And actually, I think we're seeing a really good an explosion of very creative Christian media. Obviously, there's The Chosen.
The Chosen. I was just gonna reference it. Yeah.
Chosen's incredible. Have you guys seen the new show from Daily Wire, Pendragon Cycle?
Mm-mm.
It's like a remake of the Arthurian tale. There's only one season out right now. Probably will only be one season, unfortunately. But it's like a Christianized version of the story of King Arthur, and it focuses on Merlin. And it shows a really good representation of what happens when Christianity first comes to pagan England. And it's an incredible, like, this is what would have happened. You have the Druids, you have the Christians. This is what's going on, and them vying for power. And it's a great representation, or I guess it's like a really cool step for Christian media to be like, oh, you can do some really cool stuff with this and still be within the Christian realm.
One of the things, and this is everyone's gonna laugh here, but that's okay. Having 4 kids is kind of something that, like, I'm not saying that these people are believers or anything, but that cartoon Bluey, I feel like is one of those cartoons that's made in excellence. You know,
100%.
like it really projects a lot of really fun things. Like I actually really enjoy watching it with the kids, like I don't like, there's some good lessons in there. I'm like, this is wow, holy crap. Like this is cool.
100%. I don't have any kids, and I still watch it by myself because it's very good.
Well, like you said, with like the uprising of Christian media too. I mean, in another sense, that new animated movie that came out like not too long ago, David.
Yeah.
Yeah, they had James Arnold Taylor was one of the voice actors in there. I forget which character, but I didn't see it yet. So yeah, I seen a little thing he posted on his story a long time ago.
Interesting. I didn't realize that. Very good movie. I was one of the investors for that movie, so I was very happy that when it came out in theaters, I cried when I saw it. It was great, but very good movie.
Yes,
I love it. Go ahead, Andy. I know you got a list there of some things.
For sure. Let me pull that up. But I wanted to give a quick little aside. This is a short little tangent story that I wanted to share earlier, but we just got so many different conversations. When it comes to creating stories that people would be interested in, a couple years ago, I had made a short little mini Bible comic. It was a story of Adam and Eve, and they were with different characters, rabbits. Because of Adam and Eve have a bunch of kids, so you got to go with that.
All right, Dr. Doolittle.
But I had people comment on the comic. It was only like 3 or 4 pages, and people said like, "I'm not a Christian. I'm an atheist. I don't like God, but this is so cool. I would read a whole comic Bible just because it's a cool concept.
Yeah.
And again, it's if you have a good story or good artwork. My art wasn't as good back then. Still learning. But if you have something that people are interested in, they'll definitely be more open to whatever you have to share with them.
A very similar story. I think there is a comic book series about the Bible, and it's like this ultra illustrated, like badass, like grimy, like Jesus doing one of these poses on the front, and it's like, whoa, dude.
Oh,
and
yeah.
atheists can get into that.
There's a
I
lot of
think
them.
I think
There's
I know what you're
the
talking
reality
about.
is there's a lot of comic Bibles out there. Like you even have like you have one called the Manga Bible, you have one called the Manga Messiah, you have the Action
I
Bible.
was gonna say the Action
Like-
Bible. Yeah.
I grew up
Yeah.
on the Action Bible. That was
Yeah,
Ah.
fun fact. Our first Frontier Comic seminar, we had Sergio Cariello, who did all the art for the Action Bible, as one of our teachers for that
Mhm.
for the Frontier Comic seminar.
That's cool.
He's a cool guy.
That's
For
really
sure.
cool.
I'm
I like
it.
pulling up these other comics. Ian, you had mentioned manga, and how
Yeah.
long has One Piece been going?
Too long. It's so I can talk about one let me look up when it started. It was in the
Sure.
90s at some point.
Gotcha. Has anyone
But-
else read manga?
I've not. I know Caleb's older brother here, Halfway. He reads a lot of manga.
Yeah,
That's kind
and-
of what he's turned to now.
he tried to get me into it, and I started for a while, and then I looked at the U.S. fan base of manga, and I was like, no, I'm out.
Fair.
It's
fair.
not the fedora tippers are like, but have you read the manga? You know,
Yeah,
you enjoyed the cartoon, but have you read the manga?
yeah. I took 2 seconds of that, and I was like, yeah, no, I can't do this.
Yeah.
So
Gotcha.
So
That
One Piece started July 22nd, 1997.
Wow.
97. Goodness. And he's got another how many years left?
I mean, I'm going to guess the series will wrap up in the next 2 to 3 years.
Okay, so my question then is this, because I didn't know anything really a whole lot about manga or One Piece or anything, and I think it was
Yeah.
a couple years ago. All of a sudden, everywhere I started seeing One Piece this and One Piece that and
Yeah.
One Piece this, and then I saw JT. You guys, obviously Japan's a big manga thing over there, but when all the videos for Star Wars Celebration was One Piece everything, and I'm like, what is up with this One Piece? Where did that come from?
Last year, out of curiosity, when you were in Japan with Star Wars Celebration, were they getting ready for Osaka Comic-Con or anything like that at that point?
Not to my knowledge. We were all pretty much focused on the main celebration event. So
Okay.
there could have been, but I know that they were still doing the thing on Netflix. Was that going on? I know they're still coming out with stuff.
Yeah. Season 2 just for the Netflix live action One Piece just came out this past week. And so that's why I asked. I will say, if you want a really good example of a modern epic, One Piece is that. It's very, very obvious to me as someone who loves story. That's, I think, why I'm still with keeping up with One Piece, is because of the fact it is well written. It's very obvious to me, most likely the creator Eiichiro Oda, when he was first working out the idea of One Piece, this is my guess of what he did. He went and got flashcards and wrote out little summaries of what each of these different major arcs was going to be, and he had his whole list of this is everything, this is the whole story, so he knew how it was going. Because of the fact that you have stuff that happens at the very start of the series, in the first couple chapters, that you don't actually realize some of the things going on. There's until, and now this is a part that gets crazy, is when you go, yeah, until 600 chapters later. Because of the fact, but then you go back and you're like, oh shoot, he very much knew his world. He knew what was going on with these characters and already had all this stuff planned out. And it's been very obvious that he had gone and planned out everything like just thoroughly beforehand. Now I think the reason I say the whole like note card side of it is because of the fact that a few years ago he was like, oh, it's almost done. Like the creator is going, it's almost done. And I think he was literally looking at his like note cards going, oh, there's only 2 arcs left. And so it's almost done. And not taking into consideration how he does his writing, which is I think he has his overarching thing and then he does exploratory writing and he goes, this is a general vibe. Now I'm just going to go write it out and figure it out as I go a little bit. And so I think that's part of the reason why things just drag on. Gotcha. But with where the story's at right now, it's very much coming to a full climax of the entire story.
Gotcha.
And yeah, and so that's what I'd say the phenomena with One Piece would be is it's the same sort of thing for as like those who like read the Wheel of Time series and things like that as it was coming out. Like they're like, oh my goodness, look at how all this stuff is connected, and it's this massive epic. And it's that same sort of thing with One Piece, where all these characters are connected. Like you have again another example that I think of is in the realm of literature is Brandon Sanderson. Sanderson is an expert storyteller in the sense of like being able to take things and you don't think much about it, and then at the end of like something gets mentioned passingly at the start of a book, and then at the end of a book a big thing happens and all of a sudden you're like, oh my goodness, the thing from the start of the book. And you're like, what? And it's that same exact sort of thing that's happening with One Piece. And so there's that side of it. And then for here in Japan, the other side of it is the fact that because of the fact that it came out in 97, again, that means next year, like we're dealing with the 30th anniversary of the comic going on, which is insane. In a lot of ways, when you think about it being one continual story. And and so
my apologies.
Yeah, I know. I see what David Stanley said. One Piece for Eiichiro Oda is pretty much literal his life's work. I don't think he'd make anything else. The key is focus, I guess. Which is true.
For sure.
It is very much that he has this entire world that he's built out. I think it's a lot of the same stuff that would have probably happened with Tolkien as well. If like he had started on Lord of the Rings, like that world earlier, we would have seen just him continuing to flesh out this entire world and create more and more stories in this. And so it's definitely something that, like, again, you have kids who grew up with this because again, I mean, I can. Where is it? 1 sec.
I think his point describes modern Star Wars to a T, though, with like Tolkien.
So,
if Tolkien was alive, then he would. Tolkien was alive, he would be describing, everything new that came out would be in Tolkien's favor. George Lucas Star Wars has a certain vibe to it. The new stuff, there's good stuff. Don't get me wrong, but it doesn't have the same Lucas touch.
Or look at James Cameron. He's spending his entire career with
Avatar. Yeah. But again, so like in Japan, this is your weekly Shonen Jump. So I picked this up because it's their special one that as the live action One Piece came out, you had the creator drawing the main character Luffy with the live action version of the character Chopper. Really cute and all this stuff. But
nice.
An example of this here cost me 320 yen. So this volume of comics like this,
it's pretty cheap.
That costs like $2.50.
That's insane.
That's crazy.
So
Look at
like,
Caleb's
the
face
fact-
back there. That's a Kodak moment right there.
Run
Like
that
what?
by me one more time.
Huh?
I said, run that by me one more time.
Yeah, $2.50. I mean, now granted, they print it out on like you can see, like it's really like it's like the draft printing. It's done in a way where it's printed at the cheapest possible, like in the cheapest possible way. But what that means is that these kids, like school kids going to school, will pick these up. They'll take it to school. They'll read it with their friends on break. It's part of the culture. And so when you have these kids who are picking these up, and this is where One Piece is, they're reading One Piece. Their older brother has the volumes at home, and then they go back and they're like, oh, I read a little bit. I'm like, I'm interested. They go back and they read it. And it's become so much of a part of the culture. And I think that's one of the reasons why it is as big as it is. On top of the fact that it's just, I would recommend anyone at least give the Netflix live action a shot. If you are someone who enjoys, like if you enjoy the characters with superpowers and you enjoy Pirates of the Caribbean, and you enjoy things that are goofy but also have serious moments. If you enjoy those three things, I'm almost certain you will enjoy One Piece. Because the general concept of it is it's a world where there was a pirate named Gold Roger who gets killed. He was known as the greatest pirate of all time. And he as he's getting killed, he says, I've left everything, I've seen everything the world has to offer, and I've left everything for someone to find in One Piece. And so it sets off this new golden age of piracy in this world where people are trying to find the One Piece. And then in this world, you have what's called devil fruits, where if they eat it, they get powers. But in the reverse side of it, the ocean rejects them, where they can no longer swim. They can't, like, if they fall into water, they lose their powers, they lose all strength, then they just sink. So you have this side where, like, this character Luffy, who wants to be king of the pirates, who loves the sea, can never be in the sea himself because of this. And so it creates this tension. But yeah, it's just a lot of fun. It's that area of the question that showing the concept of something that people often assume of as being the evil side of things, how there can't, like, in this thing that, like, almost yin and yang within, like, the Japanese culture, like that idea of, like, oh, even in this dark area there can be a light. And even in these light areas, like the idea that the world, you have the Marines who are supposed to be, like, on paper the good people, how even in the midst of them that there's corruption, how in the pirates there's good, but even in the Marines there's corruption, and, like, finding that balance of, like, understanding how do you, like, work within that.
Gotcha.
I'm gonna have to go on Netflix. I saved it on Netflix. I'm gonna.
It's a very good show. I saw the first season, but I haven't seen the second one yet. But that brings us to actually.
Well, could I just?
Yeah. I was gonna say JT's
yeah,
got something
sorry.
to say. Go for it, dude.
So I was looking through my photos with my friend. You can't see that, all terrible glare, but he's posing next to Ryu because we went to Shibuya, and they had the
Capcom store.
Yeah, the Capcom, Nintendo, the Pokemon Center, and they had a shop. It's like Chop Shop or Jungle Town or whatever. I don't know what it was called, but it was like an anime and manga shop. And the cultural zeitgeist of One Piece has definitely affected that store too. But it's almost. But you were talking about, sometimes the Marines that you think are going to be the good guys are actually the bad guys. It's almost like that concept of good and evil in any form of media just makes the media good and enjoyable. People strive towards that.
Yeah, absolutely.
For sure. And
also, hold on, $2 for that big book, dude.
Yeah.
W Japan, honestly, Japan.
100%.
$40 minimum for, like, an omnibus over here. By the way,
this is $25 or $30 at the comic book store.
So
you know what I mean? Like,
you have to think about, like, the printing side of it. Like, again, where is I know I have one of these right around here somewhere. But So this is like a volume of manga here. This is 520 yen. So like $4.50, like $4.50 for around that. And the thing is, it's all black and white. It dressed like the paper is like not like amazing paper, whereas you have to think about the fact that with the printing side of things, that cuts down the cost dramatically with something like this. Whereas the DC Marvel like comics that you're picking up, the trade paper, even the trade paperbacks, like those are like the trade paperbacks are like usually like $20 and the hardbacks are like 30, somewhere in that range. One, they know they can charge more for hardbacks. The other side of it is colored printing just jacks up the cost immensely.
That's very true.
And then you're also looking at like, again, this size right here, this is like it's a fraction of the size of like if I put it sideways, I can fit two of them in the size of like the traditional Marvel DC paperbacks and all that. And so like there's that side. So it's all that sort of like that stuff that gets put into like the idea of how much does it cost.
Yeah.
But yeah.
I mean, but look at the size of a thing you get for the price you pay. It's such a bargain, you know. People are striving for bargains. No one has ever complained about having too many Legos, you know. It's like, I'll take more, please, thank you. Yep.
For sure.
How many Legos would you like? Yes.
All of them.
Yeah. That's a good way of putting it. Well, I don't know how much time we have left, but I would really like to get into your guys' thoughts on the DCEU. Now, currently, we've only had one movie come out under James Gunn, and Superman, unfortunately, was not as financially successful as they were hoping. And of course, now there's the whole thing with Paramount buying Warner Brothers, and things are already on a rocky start for James Gunn under Paramount because David Ellison had his first big town hall, big meeting with the Warner Brothers execs, and James Gunn did not show up. Which he says that he was filming, which maybe that's true, but David Ellison made a point to say like, hey, DC is this is my priority now that I'm in charge of Warner Brothers. We got to make sure this works, and for James Gunn not to be there is already putting a sour taste in David Ellison's mouth. I have not seen the new Superman, to be fair, but I know that most of you guys have, so I want to hear your thoughts on what do you think of James Gunn taking over DC, and what do you think is the future of the DCEU?
I actually haven't seen the new Superman.
That makes two of us.
Oh no.
I saw it 4 times in theaters, so I guess I can make up for you guys.
4 times.
Yes, at least 4. I really enjoyed it. It's maybe one of my favorite movies.
Yeah.
Like I've said this when people would ask me, if you want to know what it feels like to read a comic book, or at least superhero comic books, watch Superman. Like it felt like a comic book.
That's good. Yeah, I agree. I was talking to Ian last night about this. Don't get me wrong. I love Man of Steel. Henry Cavill, for what he was put it, did an amazing job, and he looks like Superman. We talked about this, but when you think of Superman, you don't think dark. Typically, you think bright colors. You think hope, right? This guy that no matter what happens, he's always like, I don't know. He's Superman, right? He's got like the hair, the combed hair with the, I don't know. I just to me, the way that James Gunn put him on screen was exactly right, Caleb. Very much comic book-esque, where he's this bright, hopeful figure.
Even when he's angry, he's glowing.
Yeah.
I mean,
I think the Justice League cartoon also stayed pretty true to how he acts in expanded media, I believe, as well, right? He's that ultimate hero, you know.
Yeah.
Fearless leader.
Yep. Yeah.
Yeah, I would say if Paramount at this point pulls the plug on the stuff that James Gunn's doing, they're just going to be shooting themselves in the foot.
I agree.
Because James Gunn, again, he is very much a comics fan. He's someone. It's the same thing. Like, I think if James Gunn and Henry Cavill had been working together on a Superman film, you would have had like just this spectacular thing. Because again, you see this with who Henry Cavill is he is a nerd. He is a fan first.
Yep,
and
100%.
and so that's the side of it as well, where I think a lot of the times these companies get too caught up. They like, especially these companies who are like Paramount and Warner Brothers and things like that. They are looking at the DCEU and going, well, you're not doing what Marvel's doing. And the thing is, they can't. Like,
No.
that's just a reality.
Mhm.
Like
100%.
Marvel was a phenomena at when it came out, and they did it so well that it was a slow build that they were able to do it at the time it happened. But now trying to be like, hey, we want you to now go in and do that same sort of slow build, I don't think is going, like, it's just, the reality is it's not going to work in the same way. And so being able, I know I mentioned it last night when we briefly talked, but like with Superman, I think one of the, like, the three real big points for that movie that, like, I'm just like, oh, one is that you have Superman, who is very much the Boy Scout that he is in the comics and such, and it's just, so therefore it's just a fun watch. Two is the fact that it is a lived in world. Like, one of the scenes that I just absolutely loved, it was just like, if you're not thinking about it and not paying attention, it's just not going to, like, it's not going to click what it did subconsciously for people. But there's a sequence where Clark and Lois are talking, and there's this dimensional imp outside that's kind of blurred. You don't even see. You see things flying around fighting it, and she goes, "Don't you need to go help with that?" And he goes, "Nah, they got it." And that in itself, he's right there. He could go out and he could help. But it's that acknowledgement that there's things going on in this world that Superman doesn't need to be there to help with, which is great, because then in future movies, when Superman doesn't show up, you understand that he has other things going on, or he has full faith in these people that they can do it.
That's what they did with Captain Marvel in Endgame. Like, they had her show up at the final battle. Like, this is the one for reality, I guess, because she's this. She even says during one of her hologram messages or whatever in the movie, like, there are countless other alien planets that need helping. You are not priority, or something like that. It's like, okay,
Yeah.
I definitely get a Superman vibe from that, especially.
Yeah.
Mm.
And so that side of it, and then the other one is, the last thing is just the way they humanize the characters, because the reason that we enjoy characters is the human aspect of them. If we cannot relate to those characters, if we can't see the humanity in them, we just get very jaded. And that's one of the reasons why so many people, before this Superman movie came out, honestly, if you asked tons of people like what their thoughts on Superman was, they probably would have been like, oh, I don't like Superman. And because for so long, in so many different forms, he's been this kind of like invincible person, like the person who just it's Superman, he's always gonna win, sort of thing. And the first thing that they do in that film is they break that.
Yeah.
The
Superman
first thing
loses.
that happened, the opening sequence is 3,000 years ago, metahumans showed up. Like, this many years ago, Clark landed in. This many years, long ago, he became Superman. This many minutes ago, this many hours ago, this happened. 30 minutes ago, this battle started. 3 minutes ago, he lost for the first time, and you just see him crash into the snow, just bruised up, bleeding, and broken. And it's that aspect of, it starts at his lowest point, and throughout the film, he gets his just rear end handed to him constantly. He does not win, and it is through that understanding, and he the big point that keeps being pushed is that he's an alien, he's not human, and all this stuff. And that for him, it's that side of it going, he's like, no, I'm just as human as the rest of you guys. And that's that, like,
That's the speech he gave to Luther at the end.
yeah, and that's the whole point of that film, is to help people understand, like, he still is human. It's in the same vein as why people love Spider-Man. They love to see a character who is human, who has their struggles, who is trying to balance these two lives. And so that, like, again, every single person that I know of that went and actually saw the film, apart from like 2 or 3 people, like very, very small, like almost everyone that I know that saw that film loved it and really enjoyed it. And so I think it wasn't this financial success because, again, people looked at it and went, it's Superman.
Yeah.
But
another superhero movie. Yeah.
But enough people that saw it were just that they raved about it. And I think it's true. The one thing that got said was, this is a movie that you're either going to love or you're going to hate. There is no in between.
Mm.
And I think
That's what
that
Reed
is,
told me.
and I think that's the truth of it, is like, there's not going to be a whole lot of in between. And so I'm very much looking forward to the future of these movies. Also, I'm very excited for Supergirl specifically because of Lobo.
Yeah. Yeah.
Jason
casting, by the way.
Momoa finally got casted as Lobo, which is what he thought he was going to get casted for when they like brought him in initially, and then they're like, we want you to do Aquaman, and he was like, oh, okay.
Yeah. No, good kid. Like Caleb just said, really good casting for Lobo right there.
So you brought up 2 things I wanted to break down because they're very valid points. Is one, sometimes it is the director that insists on taking the human quality out of the actor, even though there's like nothing they can do about it too. And I've seen that especially with Man of Steel. I did see Man of Steel. I like Man of Steel. I know there's a lot of people that didn't, but I also see that is not Superman from the cartoons. You know, I know Superman enough to know that is not the Superman. It's like an alternate reality feeling. But on the same side of the coin, what you brought up about Henry Cavill being a nerd, I think another thing is the problem with multi-billion-dollar franchise companies not listening to fans that are working on the thing. You know, the best way I can describe it is, I mean, think of Cavill outright. He was going to Comic-Cons wearing a mask, taking pictures with a celebrity, revealing the mask, and they're like, "Oh, buddy, what's going on? Who is you?" He's in on the joke, you know.
Yeah.
And then when they were doing the Witcher series, he was like, "Well, I don't think we should do this," you know. And they just he's outspoken about that, about his grievances and whatnot.
Yeah.
The same way I can think of him in that realm is how I think of Sam Witwer in Star Wars.
Yeah.
Being like Darth Maul. Like, dude, listen to the guy. Like, he's not just voicing the character, but he's creating the character. He's already a fan of Star Wars preemptively, so he doesn't have to do a whole lot of research because he knows the universe.
Yeah.
Just use the input of a hardcore, sweaty fan, you know?
Yeah.
Do it.
Yeah.
You can't go wrong. And if you do go wrong, it's going to be not as many people as it would be, you know, making people happy. You know, you can't make everybody happy, but you'd significantly decrease casualties.
That's one of the things I do appreciate about some of the recent things with DC. Like we talked about again this last night a little bit, like Zack Snyder. You think of even the Matt Reeves Batman. You think of James Gunn. They all love the comic books. A lot of the stuff that they use in their movies are pulled directly from comic books. Sometimes a mixture of different things, a lot of times, but like they're pulled from the comic books. It's not just like, well, it'd be cool to put a dude in a cape and a cowl and put him out in the middle. You know what I mean? Like, these people know their comics.
But there is a caveat to that, in the sense that I would love to see certain comic books translated 1-for-1 into film. Don't get me wrong, but certain instances, comic books and video games are in their own medium,
right?
Because that's their playground. Don't touch anything else, because that's what it's meant for. Like The Force Unleashed, like, dude, you bring Starkiller into canon, he's not going to live up to the hype that you
Yeah.
see him in the video game. It literally is called the Force Unleashed. You're not going to see that stuff in movies, right? It's kind of like what we were talking about at the beginning. It makes you like cynical, like
Yeah.
nihilistic even. It's just like, dude, the Phantom Menace, they just force speed away from the droidicas. Why don't you just do that the whole movie? It's like, no, dude, that's not the point.
Yeah.
It's not all a video game. And comic book wise, for an example, the Rise of Skywalker, the Dark Empire comic book series by Tom Veitch cloned Palpatine, but it was supposed to be in the comic book format for that reason. He even said in interview, like one of those way back when, interviews, like he was like, dude, this is meant. He didn't say what if, but it was implied that it was like, dude, do not take this seriously at all. This is the EU. It's its own thing, kind of like the Infinities books. Luke Skywalker dies in the Star Wars Infinities books. There's a white suit Vader. Like, there's some crazy cool stuff, but that's because it's meant to be in its own format.
Yeah.
And I think with them taking bits and pieces like Dark Empire, cloning Palpatine, translating it into the Rise of Skywalker and stealing a bunch of ideas like that was just did not work out, man. Even if you did it 1-to-1, it's not supposed to happen. So I can see,
Yeah.
you know,
But I do like I said, like these directors who are pulling this, at least for Batman and even in the Superman and stuff, I feel like are doing it in a very classy way, in a very, like we talked about earlier, excellent way.
I do think
I would say I was just going to say quick. I do think the two things that I think are really good that DC's doing is, one, they're not titling their movies after comic books
Correct.
like Marvel is, and that's the thing is, like, the Batman. When, like, if you're a comic book fan and you watch it, you went, "Oh shoot, that's the Long Halloween."
Yes.
But they didn't call it the Long Halloween, which means any deviations that they did, you were all of a sudden okay with, because you were not going into it expecting it to be that.
Right.
And the other side of it is like, in terms of the fans, like listening to the fans, the prime example I think of is Sonic the Hedgehog. Is like the company was like, they had that, like, the original model for Sonic that they had never released. Yeah. Well, the fandom, like the backlash of that was just so insane, and they're like, "Oh shoot, we have to
We have to
fix
this.
this."
Yeah.
And they did, and now they have an enormously successful franchise because they listen to the fandom.
100%.
Right.
I
want to say something.
Sonic character in the Chip and Dale Rangers movie or whatever as like a comic book washed up celebrity. Yeah.
Caleb, you were going to say something.
Yeah, I was going to say, to JT's point, I do think there are some comic books that are just unadaptable because there are things in comic books that you can't do in live action. I think a great example would be Absolute Martian Manhunter. You couldn't do that in any other medium if you tried. But I do think when you're making a movie, you have to have care and reverence for the source material. Even if you don't do it 100%. 1-for-1, read the book at least 3 times, know what you're talking about, know why it is the way it is, and then make changes.
Yeah.
What you said with reverence, I mean, that's what hurts a lot of the Star Wars fans nowadays, is because they create stuff that a lot of people are not asking for, which is good because it introduces us to new stuff. However, they're not respecting the previous material, and then their president at the time says, "We have no source material." It's like, oh, that hurts, man. That hurts so bad.
Yeah.
For sure.
Andy, what were you going to say?
I was just gonna say really, really fast that pardon me. What was I gonna say? I think the ugly Sonic situation kind of spoiled fans for the rest of different movie franchises because the studio actually listened to them and said, "Hey, we hear your complaint. We're gonna fix it." I think a lot of fans of different media franchises went, "Oh, if they're gonna listen to us."
There's one before that.
Oh, okay, go ahead.
The Zack Snyder Justice League cut. Same thing happened. They came out with the Justice League, and granted, obviously, we talked about last night, like Zack Snyder had to step away, horrible situation there. But then the fans were like, "We want the Snyder cut. We want the Snyder cut. We want the Snyder cut." And finally, he put it together, and now it's a 4-hour Snyder cut, and that thing is a masterwork, man. So
yeah, but I think it ruined fans because now fans expect this, like, hey, if we're gonna give you our grievances, we expect that you're gonna listen to us. And instead, we're going up against the Hollywood system of like, no, we know better. We're the filmmakers. You're the fans. You just
Mhm.
be a good boy and pay and spend the money on what we have to give you instead
Yep.
of actually listening to fans. And I
In
think,
yep,
yeah,
keep going.
go ahead.
Yep. No, I was just gonna say, so that was gonna tie into what Ian touched on with Marvel naming shows and movies after previous comic books. I was in London Celebration, right, in the UK, and we were at one of the panels, and they announced 3 new movies that were gonna come out, 3 new series, I guess. They said Dawn of the Jedi, The Old Republic, and then New Jedi Order. Yeah, NJO, I guess. And we're like, yeah, let's go. I mean, I wasn't a fan of the Dawn of Jedi stuff because there was some cool stuff, but I didn't really click with it. But let's see what they do. Yeah. New Jedi Order. And then all of a sudden, Daisy Ridley walks out. And I'm like, yeah.
Oh.
Oh no, dude, they're going to take everything cool from EU Luke and strap it to this new character Rey. I'm like,
Oh.
no, dude. So now all you hear nowadays is news about new projects that are going to come out that never do because
Mhm.
it's coming, it's canceled, it's coming, it's canceled. It's like I'm so tired. It made me so tired of Star Wars news and just news for new shows in general that I'm clinging my focus to older stuff like
Yeah.
older comics that are good that have already come out. That's my safe haven because I'm so hurt by the new stuff, like new
Yeah.
news and new quality of the content. They're not listening to fans. They're not listening
Oh yeah.
to the people that are fans working on the thing too. It's just
Yeah.
there's too many cons that outweigh the pros.
One of the
And
things
comic books is a safe haven. Sorry, go ahead. Yeah.
No, you're fine. One of the things I want to talk about, kind of talking about the DCU, we were talking earlier about comic books kind of like making you cynical in a way when you go to see movies and stuff. One of the things that I always say when somebody asks me who's your favorite Batman is personally Ben Affleck. And I'll tell you why. One, when you look at Christian Bale's Batman, are there some really cool things? Yes. Heath Ledger Joker, great. But one of the things that I don't like about the Batman aspect is everything that he has in that movie is from a company that his dad started. You take Batman in its purest form in comics, everything is a one of one. He builds everything. His suit, his car, his bike, his Batwing, everything is one of one. Nothing can be duplicated because he made it. And so when you take that aspect of it, for me, that kind of ruined things where it was like, well, that's a bummer. One of the reasons I like the new Batman series is not because of Robert Pattinson playing Batman. I don't think he fits the Batman Bruce Wayne character personally. But I like the aspect of he creates everything. His Batmobile, he created it. Everything that he's got, all of his tools and his gadgets, he put it together. He created it. His suit, everything.
That's why people click with Tony Stark in the Iron Man movies because you
Right.
see him physically working on the stuff.
Correct.
That's true. That's
And
a really
so
good
for
point.
me, the reason I really like Ben Affleck's Batman is because when you look at like the animated series, the comic books, Batman not only can move fast in the shadows, but he's a monstrosity of a human being, right? He's a big, broad-shouldered dude. He puts fear into people, not just because he can move fast in the shadows, but because he is a big dude. And so for me, Ben Affleck fits that the best. And he does work on his own stuff, right? It's kind of alluded to that the Batmobile, he made it, right? Like his Batwing, he made it, like all of that stuff. Like it's to me, so far of what we have of Batman, Ben Affleck's kind of encapsulates Batman the best, in my opinion.
Yeah, and people also just the people hating on Ben Affleck's Batman, honestly, it's again, I would say it's people who have not spent a lot of time with Batman outside of the live action films, because again, it's a Batman that is very much, it is heavily based off of Frank Miller's Batman, who you get this Batman who's been around for a long time. He's had tons of experience. He's at this going, I've been alone at this for years and I haven't had any help. He is jaded. He's going, it's why he's viewing everyone as a threat initially, because he's going, I don't know who I can trust, because like I have been at this alone for this time. All I've seen is the horrible stuff that is in Gotham. And so you get this more grizzled Batman that is jaded, and people are like, oh man, I don't like this, where he's just like acting this way. And again, it's people who are used to seeing like the billionaire playboy side of it, whereas the Frank Miller's Batman is just one who's just like, he's not in the public anymore. He's doing his own thing. He's just out there being Batman again.
Yeah.
I guess I can play devil's advocate here for a minute. I never really liked Ben Affleck as Batman, but I think that was mostly the no kill rule thing. Like, I actually really like Frank Miller's Batman. It was just that one part of like how violent he was in those films. I think he got a lot better in Zack Snyder's Justice League, but I felt in Batman versus Superman specifically, he was really just like, I think Ben Affleck played him well, but I think the way Zack Snyder wrote him was a little off.
Well, that Batman v Superman is exactly what I'm saying. Like that, where he's brought in at that point is prime Frank Miller, where he is like, he's just so jaded. He is willing to like, there are like, and he's having, as people are coming in, as he's meeting Superman, as these things are happening, and he's seeing these people coming in, he's having to go back to his roots and going, oh yeah, we can actually do this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the whole thing with the imagery that they give of the Robin suit, right? That's got the spray paint on it from Joker and stuff. It's to show that aspect of him where he's been through so much. He's on the back end of his career. He's been through so much, like you said, where he's like, I don't give a crap anymore. I just got to get done what I got to get done. I don't have anybody I can trust. Like, it's on me. I got to get this done.
Yeah. But I also think in the sense that these movies that came out did what they could, not only with their technology, but the story that they were in. I think they had the right actors for that type of movie. For example, I don't think I could see Ben Affleck, big dude, using a sword fighting on ice, Ra's al Ghul with Liam Neeson. Like, dude's gonna take him down. It visually would not look the same of like Christian Bale getting knocked down. He's got that stern look, and it's
but that's the other side of it, though. Ra's al Ghul himself was a big dude. If you look at like the animations and the comics and stuff, Ra's al Ghul was a big dude.
But you can't yoke up Liam Neeson, though. I think with what they chose, they worked it perfectly. And in the same sense as like Christian Bale, Ben Affleck, Michael Keaton. You got all these Batman actors. Which one would you see to play the Bat Who Laughs from the comic book series? I personally don't think I need any of them. Would be the
absolutely
best.
not.
No.
I think they did what they could.
But with that side of it is like we keep bringing up Christian Bale's Batman. I think one of the things that constantly gets forgotten with that is Christian Bale's Batman is not meant to be comic book Batman.
Right. It's supposed to be grounded.
It's like, look, it came from an area of going, hey, what if Batman was in our in our world? What if these characters were in our world? And like, that is honestly one of the big reasons why I have a problem with Batman, like the Batman Rises, the third one. I really do not like Bane. I'm like, he was the wrong choice for a character for that film.
Yeah.
I like Batman and Robin nipple suit Bane, where he's actually yoked with the venom.
Exactly.
I'm Hardy. I cannot talk the right way.
Yeah, so like that's what I'm saying is like with the fact that like with Batman's Rogues Gallery, like you have so many characters that could have been put in that place instead, that could have done something very similar. Well, fans feeling like it was more like a grounded but true version of a comic book character, whereas that just
I did not like Batman The Dark Knight Rises at all.
Gazer, and you want to talk about yoked up DC characters? Bane in the comic books, he takes up 2/3 of the page every page he's on. 100%. Dude is only muscle.
Have you guys read Absolute Batman? And that he's the entire page.
That's what he's reading right now. That's what Ian's reading right now.
So, Ian, I wanted to ask you this quick question. You said Bane wasn't the right choice. Who would have you put in Bane's place in that movie? Like, what character would you replace him with?
I mean, if you're wanting someone that's more grounded or things like that, honestly, like a good like potential would have been someone like what is Black Mask, is it? The and
Oh,
all
Black
that, just
Skull.
like Black Skull. Yeah, like
Yeah.
you have characters who are just like, it's like, who are working with a massive criminal organization for like everything that was happening in this, like
Yeah.
in Gotham at the time. It's just like, if you have someone who's like, they are in charge of a Gotham wide gang that is just like everyone everywhere, you could have had all those sort of coordinated attacks. You could have had that side of it. And you could have very easily had someone who was beefed up and still had like some of those sort of fights. But yeah, just
Having those
Yeah.
crime connections and still being yoked, I think of the PS4 Spider-Man game, Tombstone. Dude's a
Yeah.
beefcake, but he's still in like the crime organization, still leading charge. You know.
I'm
Yeah.
excited to see Brand New Day, Tombstone. Like, I'm excited to see what they do with Tombstone.
Yeah, we'll have to see. That's coming. They're getting shortly ready to release a trailer here, aren't they?
Yeah, this next week.
Yeah,
Or
I was
or
going to
this-
say next week.
or-
Oh, wow.
There's speculations that it's actually going to be this Wednesday, so we'll see. But sometime this next week.
Okay.
Nice.
I'm super excited
Yep.
for that. But yeah, like I get like the grounded aspect of it, but it's always funny when people do ask me like, what's your favorite Batman? I'm like, how long do you have? Because that's not a straightforward answer for me. Like there's a little bit of explaining to do
Yeah.
here. So
I think that oh, go ahead, Ian, and then
I was
have a
just going to
question.
say quickly with the DCU, with all that as well, one thing that I'm just really excited for is they announced the Lanterns series.
yes.
And I'm just like, the fact that we already have Guy Gardner, the fact that we're getting a jaded Hal Jordan and all this stuff, and just that side of it, I'm like, I'm excited to see what someone who is not like a company that's not going, we're just doing this to sell toys, is going to do with Green Lantern.
Yes.
The brown suit.
Oh man. Yeah, I will say this too. One of the things I wanted to bring up, the Batman with Robert Pattinson.
The Batman.
I really enjoyed the grittiness of that movie. The look, it reminded me of a mixture between the Arkham City, Arkham Knight games. With those Arkham games were amazing. And the animated show. It was a really good mixture. And then I thought personally, Paul Dano did a really good job as Riddler. I really liked that version of Riddler. I thought it was really well done. It wasn't just, obviously like Jim Carrey silly, like just goofy deal. It was
And
a
the-
very well thought out. Like he even took his inspiration from the Zodiac Killer. I mean, it was a very
Yeah.
And the Gotham series, I think it's on HBO. They had
Yeah.
a Riddler in that show, but he's more like maniacal. Like
Yeah.
he's like that in between of what you see in the Pattinson Batman and Jim Carrey. He's like
yeah.
bits of both.
What I appreciate with it is like, oftentimes like Jim Carrey's Riddler, for me, I'm like, it's okay, but it got too close to Joker. It was
Yes.
it felt like they were trying to go, we can't do Joker, but how can we do Joker without it being Joker?
Right.
Because
Yeah.
that's where I really appreciated like Paul Dano's Riddler, was because it was based off of intellect, and that is
Right.
like Batman's villains are all like taking a different aspect and like
Broken
going,
geniuses.
well, it's the whole thing of like each villain challenges a different aspect of Batman.
That's true.
Like, I mean, Joker is just the inverse of who Batman is.
Yeah.
And then you have Riddler, who is supposed to be the intellect side of it. Bane is the strength side of it. And you have like all these different things where it's like they all embody these different aspects of
Yeah.
Batman, of like where he has to like actually like really consider things very differently for each person. and so that's what I appreciated with the fact that they went into the intellect side, and that movie just felt like Batman. It was a Batman film, but it felt like a crime noir film.
Yes, 100%.
I have a hot take. I don't think they will ever capture that Joker lightning in the bottle like they did with Heath Ledger. And they can't help themselves, even with the Pattinson Batman movie. Even if he's not like a plot device like of the main character in the movie, they couldn't help but throw the Joker like in an interrogation, room, just to recast another Joker. The only Joker that has returned, correct me if I'm wrong, is the Heath Ledger Joker in the Justice League. He was in Suicide Squad, and then they had that scene where he had the long hair. My least favorite Joker, by the way.
No, that was Jared Leto, not Heath Ledger.
Jared Leto.
I hated that joke. I hated Jared Leto's Joker. I'm sorry, it was so bad.
Cringe.
Yes, 100%. That is one of the knocks I will say. You're talking about like Jim Carrey's Joker Riddler getting too close to the Joker. That was one of the knocks about the Batman versus Superman that I had on Luthor, is that Luthor in that movie was way too crazy, like Joker-esque style crazy. Yeah. That's not Luthor. Luthor is a little crazy, don't get me wrong, but he's a very much an intellect crazy. And that's why I really enjoyed the Batman or the Superman movie that came out, was because Luthor, like Nicholas Hoult, did an amazing job with that, portraying this very, very high intellect, crazy smart, crazy person. You know what I mean? Like
Michael Rosenbaum.
Yeah, I will say the only thing I didn't appreciate with Luthor in that film is the fact that what I enjoy with Luthor is that often he is the character who, like, the reason he's such a good villain for Superman is in the comics, he's the person who does everything technically within the legal realm. Right. He's not doing anything that is that's illegal. And so you see Luthor in James Gunn's Superman doing things that do cross the line. And that's why he gets thrown in prison.
True.
And so it's that side where Superman's still choosing like to be the bigger person, but the difficult thing, like that's the side that Luthor gets to in the comics, where he's just like, what are you going to do about it? What can you do to stop me? Because I'm not doing anything that's illegal, and he knows that.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, any medium that I've ever seen Lex Luthor portrayed, he's always the antithesis, and he is the embodiment of the people who hate Superman, carried out in one being, and like you said, following the legal protocols, kind of like that unreachableness of the Joker. Like, Batman's never going to kill him. He needs him alive, right? To fight the crime. He even says that in like the Batman and Beyond, like, I chase him, he chases me, we do the thing,
Yeah. Yeah. Well, like, even that is one line that I do like in the Batman The Dark Knight, right? Is he's like, then why do you want to kill me? And he starts laughing. He's like, why would I want to kill you? Like, you complete me.
Complete me.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm a dog chasing cars.
I haven't seen all the Batman movies, but I've seen a good chunk of the animated Batman the Animated Show from the 90s, which is an incredible show. I think something that's really unique is I go and watch an episode, and I come away feeling really sorry for all the villains. Like, every villain, you're like, no, they are like I think you call them broken geniuses.
Yes,
they're incredible characters on their own that just go the wrong path. I think of I saw recently the last episode I saw was Clayface.
Yep.
And like his story of just he's trying to,
which that movie's coming out soon.
It is.
I'm looking forward to that. It's like a horror style. Yeah, I'm looking forward to that one.
Yikes. Clayface, Dr. Freeze. Who's the? I don't know his name. I want to call him the Time Bandit, the Time Guy. So in the cartoon, like one of the lawyers had told him like, oh, or someone had told him like, oh, take a break, and because he was so worried about being late all the time. He said, oh, you should just take a break, and you'll never be late. You just take 5 minutes to yourself. And the guy ends up being late to a court ordeal, loses everything, and becomes a villain.
Is that Clock King?
That might,
I have no idea who it is.
That might be it.
Okay, gotcha. But something I'm seeing with is everyone tends to argue about the live action movies, but the animated series, everyone seems to, from my knowledge, everyone agrees that they're pretty good. Well,
Oh, yeah.
written.
Oh yeah. Well,
Yeah.
again, I mean, if you want to get into the core of it, it's because of the fact that like with animation, it's the comics.
Yes.
You can just you're not dealing with CGI. You're not dealing with like
Copy,
is this
paste.
gonna look right? You're just taking that stuff and you're transferring it into a medium that
Yeah.
that is why for like if you want a comic accurate thing, animation like honestly is the best.
Yes. And they
choice.
actually have season 2 coming out on Amazon of Batman. There's like an animated
Caped
series.
Crusader.
Caped Crusader.
Oh.
Thank you very
Oh,
much.
okay.
Season 1 is phenomenal. It's like the same type of animation as the animated series. Like the story is very, very good. I would very highly recommend that series. It's really, really good. Apparently Caleb's seen it too.
Yeah, I did. I was actually part of me really was always irked by their Two-Face actor because it's Diedrich Bader who
Yeah.
did Batman in Brave and the Bold.
Okay.
And so I heard him, I'm like, why isn't he Batman? Because I grew up on that show. So part of me was always like, it caught me off guard. It's like, this isn't Batman. This is Two-Face.
Yeah.
Interesting.
But it
Gotcha,
is well
gotcha.
done. It is apart from that, I feel like it is well done. So I know we gotta wrap up here. Limitless Nerd joining us
Howdy.
here. Thanks for being in here, Limitless Nerd. Good to see you. Hey, Limitless, are you going back to RSC this year? I think I'm gonna be taking Mr. As of last night, Andy Garcia's coming with me, I think.
We'll see. We'll see.
No. Now he's getting cold feet, Ian. We gotta bully him back
We-
into
we-
this.
No
Oh, I
promise.
already told Andrew Fleming as well that
Yeah, I saw that.
so Andrew Fleming is going to be on our side too. You know, with this.
All right. I like
100%.
it.
Yeah. Which that's a good way for me to plug in. If you guys like this episode, let us know. Eventually, we would love to do another episode where we talk about the actual process of making comics and stuff like that. So if you guys are interested, let us know. We have another friend of ours, Andrew Fleming, that he's working on his own comic, and we'd love to talk with him about that.
Also, guys, if you're interested, my link tree is up here, QR code there. Go follow. I'm actually only 4 subscribers away from hitting 400, which is super exciting.
Nice.
So go sub over there. I'm also on it's got my Instagram, my X, and everything else. If you guys haven't, go to Instagram, go follow Andy Garcia. It's Andy Classified. Andy, you're on YouTube as well, aren't you?
Correct. Yes, I just recently started doing art streams. We do it usually Saturday mornings from 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. Central Time.
11 p.m. Dang, dude. That's
No. That'd be crazy. 11 a.m. My apologies. Yeah, usually it's just a chill stream. We hang out and chat as I doodle pen and ink drawings usually. So yeah, stop by. And that's Andy Draws on YouTube.
Andy
Again,
Draws. Andy Draws. I like it. Limitless Nerd says, yes, I'll be there. Good. It'll be good to see you again. David says, was an amazing talk. You guys totally appreciate it. Absolutely.
David,
we love doing
thank
this.
you so much.
Yeah.
Thank you
This
so
is
much.
great. Also, Ian, go ahead and tell people where they can find you on socials.
Yeah, so artful_thinking is where you can find me on Instagram and Twitter, and then or X, and then let's see. I need to get back into it slowly. I do streaming on YouTube and Twitch. My Twitch is IanJarrold1. IanJarrold1, and then if you look up artful_thinking, my YouTube channel might come up, or it's at Ian J Lammy. So IanJLAMMI. Going to slowly be starting to work on some YouTube videos. I've recently got a camera and all that to slowly start filming, but yeah, trying to do more of that side of things. Wanting to, trying to figure out ways to get people engaged with art and that side of things and make more of it content out of it.
I love it. I love it. All right, JT, tell us where you can find him. Nobody asked JT about Instagram. Anyway, JT.
What he just said, I am in a long battle to try to get it back. That was my main platform. But if you just type in my name like this, j.t.lovecraft, JT Lovecraft, I'm on YouTube. And I have a TikTok, but I think I'm going to start uploading on YouTube now that the dust has settled, I guess you could say.
Yes. I love it.
You'll see me around.
I love it. Yes, and he'll be on more Nerds Galore, obviously. And then last but not least, huge special thanks for Caleb here. Come on out. It was good to have you, Caleb. Hopefully we can get you on some more.
I love it. This is
Indeed.
fun.
You like this?
Yeah.
All right. I like it. Andy, anything else before we take off? Did you have anything else to say?
Nope, I think that's it. Thank you guys so much. We hope you enjoyed this episode, and once again, let us know because we have a lot more we'd love to talk about. Again, getting into more of the weeds of making comics and all that. But yeah, thank you guys. This has been really fun. Thank you all for agreeing to be on today.
Yeah, absolutely.
course.
Thanks for wow, that was what's going on there? That was abrupt. Anyway,
We're being dissolved.
we're being dissolved.
No.
Anyway, guys, like I said, really appreciate you guys being here. Last time I do that, I promise. Thanks, guys, for watching. Really appreciate it. We'll see you guys next time on Nerds Galore. See ya.
So yeah.